Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Horse Races Now podcast. We have another unbelievable guest in studio, Shannon Arvin, the president and CEO of Keeneland. Thank you so much for being here.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Shannon, pull that microphone just a little bit closer to you. Thank you. All right.
Excited to be here.
So awesome to have you in studio. We have so many questions. I actually have 5 pages of questions.
I don't know if you had a lot of pages.
I don't know that we'll get to all that, but we've got so much. Thank you for doing this. Kenny and Cindy at McPeak Racing think so highly of you, and they were so excited you were willing to do this. So thank you for being here again.
They are great. I'm happy to be here.
So Shannon, let's start from the beginning with you. So you're a Lexington native.
I am.
And actually the first female to ever hold this position. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about your background. How did you get to where you are?
So I was born and raised in Lexington. My grandfather was actually the first general manager of Keeneland back when it started in 1935.
So it's a bit of a family affair here.
Yeah, you know, my dad grew up on the grounds, but for myself growing up, my involvement, you know, we grew up in an era where kids didn't go to the races. It was very much an adult affair. So I didn't grow up going to the races. My first job would have been working the switchboard at Keeneland when I was about 14 years old. And I worked in the sales office back when women weren't allowed to wear pants. So we wore these horrible Joseph Bank uniforms that were really polyester, not very attractive. But I just always felt such an affiliation with Keeneland and the institution and what it stood for. And then I went away to college at North Carolina, at Chapel Hill, for 4 years. Then I lived in D.C. for a couple of years, came back to law school in Lexington, and practiced law for 18 years. Doing equine law, a lot of equine work. We represented Keeneland, and I got to know a lot of the people, certainly, that work out there. And then a lot of the other people at farms, too. You know, just got to really understand better, I think, the industry and the people and the connections. And that's what makes it so fun. It's the relationships. I mean, certainly it's those incredible animals, the majestic horses, but it's also just the relationships with people from all over the world. I mean, it is such an international business. And I remember being 24 years old thinking, oh my gosh, I have to call somebody from England and Ireland and Dubai today. And it's a lot of fun.
So my dad wanted me to make sure I asked you this question. Do you remember at Keeneland when they would do the races without calling them?
Oh, definitely.
He thought that was awesome.
Ago.
It was. I guess that wasn't that long ago. It was the 70s maybe?
No, it was more recent than that. It was 1999 when we started.
Really?
Because Kurt Becker is our only race caller that we've ever had.
Interesting.
And we gave him a Julep Cup recently for his 20th. So it's not really all that recent, not that long ago that we.
Well, and that was unique, right? Keeneland was the only kind of track that did that.
Very much so. Very much so.
Well, I mean, is there a reason you got away from it? You just kind of had to get to catch up with the times, maybe? Or
I think it's like so many things about Keeneland. We have so many traditions that are great, but you got to step back every once in a while and say, okay, why do we have this tradition? Does it make sense anymore?
Right.
And move, leave the traditions that don't work anymore in that day and age, and move forward with the innovations that we have. And I think that was it. I think people probably were having trouble paying as much attention to the races, understanding them as well without the race caller. And we're definitely particular about who that is. I mean, even when Breeders' Cup comes in, we always have Kurt as our on-track voice.
Got it. So cool. All right. So the last couple podcasts for us, they've been emotional because we have announced the retirement of Torpedo Anna. A big deal for McPeak Racing and Horses Now. I mean, probably the best horse ever in that stable. But Keeneland is now getting involved, and there's a portion of her that you can now buy. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, Torpedo Anna has caught she's just been an inspiration to everybody in the business, and I've loved watching her run. She just is such a presence. It's fun to talk to Kenny and see how much he loves her, how much the fans love her. I mean, she really has captured the imagination of so many people. So we are so beyond honored to be involved in the sale of any part of her. The championship sale is the inaugural year was last year. We started it at Del Mar. It's a sale in the paddock that happens the Wednesday before Breeders' Cup. So there's already so much excitement about that event. And we just really wanted to have an event. It's a party. It's festive. People come to have a good time, but it's a sale also. And we got our inspiration. Golf does this too before Royal Ascot. So that's definitely part of where we drew the idea. And this year we'll be selling 20% of Torpedo-Anna breeding interest only. And I think it's just a tremendous opportunity, tremendous offering, and it's going to be so exciting to do that.
So there's a lot of money to be made there probably for someone to get involved.
I'd say so.
Because 20%, and she's going to be highly sought after, we think. And with these foals, man, I tell you what, that could be really cool.
I mean, she's legendary. And I think it's more common in the business, certainly, to buy an interest in a stallion, and that all works very differently.
Okay.
The economics are very different, but there aren't many opportunities to get involved with a horse like Torpedo-Anna.
Yeah. And she's such a star, like you mentioned.
Incredible.
She kind of just captivated the horse industry. It was really cool. And obviously being horse of the year, I mean, there's a lot of things with that.
She's amazing. And I was actually at Oaklawn when they paraded her and Mystic Dan on Arkansas Derby Day, and it was so cool to see the fans there and how they reacted. And we're looking forward to doing that this Saturday at Keeneland too. So
Shannon, one of the reasons I think this podcast does well is I am not a horse expert. Certainly grew up in Kentucky, so grew around horses and horse racing and whatnot, but this is not my business. So I own a marketing agency by trade and got involved with this with Kenny. And I think a lot of the questions I ask are pretty novice in a lot of ways, but our listeners seem to love that because I ask questions and I think a lot of times it's not the insiders and the experts, and it's a little bit more dumbed down. I think people love that. So that being said, I'm going to ask you something about this championship sale. So we do a lot with Fazzik Tempted. They're a sponsor of ours, and we talk about their sales quite a bit. Can you tell me the difference between what you guys do from the sales side and what they do? Or is it are you guys competitors?
We're definitely competitors. Keeneland sales started in the 1940s.
Okay.
When you couldn't actually get the horses up to Saratoga for the sale. So Fazzik has been around for longer than we have. I think one of the primary differences for me is that Keeneland is like a nonprofit. We don't have shareholders to whom we have to pay any dividends. Nobody gets rich from selling horses at Keeneland.
Right.
Nobody at Keeneland gets rich from selling horses at Keeneland.
Right.
Everything we do, everything we decide, every place we invest is back in the community, back in the horse, back in our facilities. We just did a $100 million construction project, and that was built in large part on the backs of our sales. So,
right.
Competition is good for everybody. I'm going to say that for a long time, Keeneland was kind of the behemoth. We still, by far, have the biggest yearling sale in the world in September. Competition makes us better, and we are using that competition to make ourselves better. And it's like I said, competition is good for every business, and we believe that too.
Okay, so one of the questions that we have from our listeners is, being that you guys are competitors, how are you guys competing? Is it the breeder level? So some of the breeders come to you, some of them go to them, or do they go to both? Or how does that work?
Everywhere. It goes back to relationships. And for us at Keeneland, we're full circle. There's not another sales company in the world that also has a racetrack.
Yeah.
So for somebody to buy their yearling at Keeneland, break them, put them in training, have them come win graded stakes races at Keeneland, and then go through the sales ring at Keeneland, it's just we offer the full package.
It's full circle.
And it's at every level that we compete. But it does go back again to those relationships, and we want our breeders to do well. That's part of the reason that the successful September sale was so exciting and so gratifying to us, because we saw people who, when some think of this business, they think about the planes flying in from the Middle East and the wealthy principals, and that's definitely part of it, but it's so much deeper than that, because especially in central Kentucky, you have people that work 7 days a week, 365 days a year, taking care of these animals and foaling the mares and taking care of the horses from the time they're little babies, and then they bring them to the sale in September as a yearling, and to see them be rewarded financially. People are joking about a lot of new farm trucks being driven around town because of the success of the sale. that's so much of what it's about, being partners with people in the industry at every level and making sure that they're rewarded and respected and having fun.
Yeah, sure.
And successful.
All right. So 2 more questions on the sale. So one of our listenerships, our listener base, is an owner that it may be brand new, that's in a conglomerate or just really new to the game. And we get this question a lot with Kenny. Can anybody come to these sales?
Absolutely.
Okay. So,
absolutely. You know, it's funny. Even my mom, who's kind of grown up around this business, she said, I didn't think anybody could go to the sale. Anybody can go to the sale. And it's so fun. I mean, you don't want to walk into the arena and start scratching your nose or tugging on your ear or anything. You might do something you didn't mean to do.
Sure.
But the sales are a blast. There's just so much energy. There's so many, the people watching is fabulous, just like it is at the races. And it kind of like our September sale, we joke about how it changes because over time you have different bases of buyers, and we work really hard to recruit buyers from all over the world. So we had buyers in September from over 30 countries, and someone from every state was there.
Awesome.
So it really is just the breadth of the reach of our sport and our sales it's fascinating. But yes, definitely everybody should come watch a sale. We've actually had a lot more people feel comfortable doing that. Like we've had, the mayor will come out and watch the sale. The governor will come to the sale. So some politicians who maybe didn't feel comfortable before are coming. But it is open to everyone. We have some days where there's so many kids out there. It's fun just to see them eating ice cream, running around. It's really awesome. It's a cool experience, like the races, but a different aspect of the business.
Now, the prices can be all over the map, but man, they can get up there. And I know this past September sale, there was some records, wasn't there?
Mm-hmm, there were. We sold about $530 million in yearling bloodstock.
Unbelievable.
And last year was a record when we sold about 415. So it was not just a little bit of an increase, it was a huge increase.
Yeah.
We sold 56 yearlings for $1 million or more.
Okay.
Also a record. The previous record was like 48. But one of my favorite statistics of the sale was of the 56, there were 34 different buyers. So it just shows you how deep the market is.
Right.
There are some new tax benefits that probably play into that. But at the end of the day, while that might make you feel more comfortable buying horses, at the end of the day, you own a horse. So it's so exciting that shows interest and enthusiasm for the sport. So
talk to me a little bit about the landscape right now. Politically, obviously do not care where you stand, but how is the world when it comes, because Kenny and I talk about the tariffs, and he talks about it's really hard how to bring horses in from overseas. There's a few things from a political standpoint with his employees and some things that aren't as easy right now as maybe they had been. Right. How about from your chair? How do things look from the industry standpoint?
We deal with all those same things that Kenny's talking about. We were really worried that the tariffs would impact our foreign participation. It's interesting. It really didn't. I mean, we had a lot of participation from Europe, a lot of participation from Japanese, the Middle East, some new countries in the Middle East. So we were really fortunate that we didn't see that impact. I suspect we will if they continue. So we need to keep an eye on it.
Sure.
The market, the stock market, people actually have always said, when I got this job, people had always told me that our sales follow the stock market. I said, okay, let's look at that. Is that really true? It's really not true.
Got it.
There are times the market's up and our sales are down and vice versa.
Right.
I think there's just a lot of capital out there right now.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing for our sport. Certainly there are political challenges. People fall on all sides of the fence. Whatever side of the fence you fall on, you've got to recognize the labor issue because there's just got to be a way for the people who are truly the backbone of our sport and are, all but sleeping with these horses, but taking care of them and providing such a critical service that we got to find a way for them to be welcomed and continue working. Or it's not just our industry; it's going to be in trouble. It's all agricultural industries, I'd say.
Yeah, Kenny talks about that quite a bit. I mean, it's to your point; they are the backbone, and it's. I know that there's a lot of people scared kind of what was going to happen, but it seems like everything's okay at the moment and everything's moving in the right direction. All right, talk to me about Breeders' Cup 2026. pretty exciting.
It is exciting. This will be the 4th time we've hosted Breeders' Cup. First time was 2015. So that was kind of a let's prove we can do it year, I'd call it. We had quite a few temporary structures that year. 2020 was a sad year because it was during the pandemic. So we had participants only. We probably had 3,500, 4,000 people there. And I will tell you, the fans and the owners that were there were like, this is awesome.
Oh, I'm sure.
Can we do this again? We have the whole place to ourselves.
This is amazing, right?
I said, no, I hope we never, ever, ever do this again. And then 2022, we hosted it. That was Flightline's year and more customary circumstances. So this will be the 4th time. And with that experience, I think we get better every time we do it.
Oh, I'm sure.
Since 2022, we have invested about $100 million in a new paddock building. So that'll provide more seating and a better experience I think, for fans.
Right.
You know, the temporary structures are great. It's so much better than being outside under a tent. But I still think that the permanent structure will let us provide a better hospitality experience. And we've been working a lot at Keeneland on upping our game on hospitality. We have an awesome head of our hospitality division called Mark. His name is Mark Therian, and he's been there 9 years. And we're really elevating the talent of the chefs and just really focusing on making it a culinary destination when you're in those areas. Obviously, the hot dog is already a culinary destination.
Of course.
We're not going to change that, and we're not going to change the burgoo. But just if you have a seat, just making sure that you have the best experience possible. Because, again, you have people from all over the world that come to little Lexington, Kentucky.
Right.
It's good for Keeneland. It's good for the sport. But it's incredible for the community and the restaurants and the hotels and the shops. It's a huge economic impact for our state.
Does Lexington have enough hotels? Do they have enough thing to really house everyone? Is it big enough?
I think we do. It's interesting. One of the reasons, believe it or not, that it's been challenging for Breeders' Cup to be hosted in New York is because it's often the same weekend as the New York City Marathon.
Oh, okay.
So even a city like New York can have a hotel shortage.
Got it.
So for Lexington, we've gotten some additional hotels in the past years that are helping with the housing. We've got some cool boutique hotels like Manchester, 21C. Certainly the Marriott downtown does really well. So we find that there really is enough space to house people.
Awesome. I mean, that's the marquee event, and it's pretty cool that it's in really the heartbeat of the horse industry. And Shannon, I would assume you would agree with that. I mean, Keeneland really is kind of the heartbeat of the horse industry, right?
We believe so. And again, I think a lot of that goes back to the fact of the basis of how our founders created us, which is the only North Star we have is what's the right thing to do. Like, how do we act with integrity? What's right for the horse? And I say that, and I don't take that lightly, and I don't mean to sound trite.
Yep.
But it truly is. Of course, we want to be profitable, but we want to be profitable so we can put more money back into the sport, back into the industry. So I think that's, in large part, what helps us be the heartbeat. And also, there is such a huge breeding industry right in Central Kentucky.
Oh, yeah.
That's one of the exciting things about hosting Breeders' Cup is because the runners are coming back right near where they were born,
That's right.
where they were foaled.
That's right. And maybe where they'll live out their rest of their life once their racing career is over.
That's right.
What are the biggest operational challenges in pulling something off like a Breeders' Cup?
You know, Drew Fleming is CEO of Breeders' Cup, and he's one of my dearest friends. We actually practiced law together, but we both went different directions. So we work together very well. It's important that our teams synthesize, because when the Breeders' Cup comes in, they're really in large part using the staff and the personnel of the track where the host is. For Keeneland, we're kind of like our whole city. Like we have Eric Sword, who knows everything about our water and gas lines, and he's been with Keeneland for 42 years. We have a lot of Eric Swords on our grounds, and we have 1,300 acres that we manage. So it's just making sure that all that works together with the Breeders' Cup, and there's this continuity of kind of our internal experts knowing what's a good idea and what's a bad idea.
Yep.
And then I think the other challenge, honestly, for our team is just the timing.
Yeah.
Because we call the fall, we call it running the gauntlet, because you have your September sale, and then
Yep.
you have your race meet,
Yep.
and then you have the championship
Right.
sale, and then you
Right.
have Breeders' Cup, and then you have your November sale, and then you
Mhm.
have your horses of racing age sale, and then actually we have an art auction. At
Oh,
the
wow.
end, a sporting
Okay.
art
Yeah. I
auction.
mean, just might as well, right? Throw it in,
So
good measure.
It's a long run, but we love hosting the Breeders' Cup because, again, it's an incredible event. It's so good for the sport, and it's good for our community.
That's awesome.
It's not a job, it's a way of life. We know. At Hallway Feeds, we've worked for generations to advance equine nutrition because watching them at their peak is like nothing else. With Hallway Feeds, the race is in the bag.
So Shannon, one of the things that Kenny and I talk a lot about is kind of the equine safety, the rider safety. He tends to think that sometimes these vets are a little overboard, and he's a trainer, so he's going to run into that sometimes. I'd love to get your opinion on what Keeneland is doing to promote safety, not only for the horses but for the riders.
Mm-hmm. A lot. And we spend a lot of time and energy on it. We have a vice president of equine safety named Stuart Brown, who's a veterinarian. He worked with Hagyard for years. That was where he spent most of his career. I don't know now. It wasn't common for a vet to be employed by a racetrack. I don't know now, with all of the requirements that we have and all of the systems that we have in place, how you'd operate without a vet.
Interesting.
So certainly we were supporters of HISA, and I think HISA has done a lot of good things. I think HISA is part of the reason that the September sales were stronger, because I think people feel comfortable coming into the sport knowing that there's a federal regulatory overlay.
Yeah.
It's not perfect, and there are some ways it can be improved, certainly, but in terms of medication issues, you don't have, a racing commission in California making a different prosecutorial judgment call than the racing commission in Kentucky.
Right.
You've got one authority, which simplifies a lot of things.
Sure.
And I think from that, we can really begin to work together and move forward. We invested a lot of money in cameras. So we have cameras everywhere, and that's had a huge impact, because if there is a horse that's injured, we can dial it up on the camera and know exactly what happened, exactly where the step happened, exactly where the rider fell. And we actually send that tape. If a rider has to go to the hospital, we send that tape on to the emergency room.
Interesting.
And we have a really close relationship with the University of Kentucky Hospital.
Yep.
And also HISA's done a lot with rider safety as well. But knowing that we've got their paramedics on call all the time, every time there's a race meet, every time there's a sale, and then knowing that we've got a direct line to the emergency room, and we know exactly who they're going to see. They're not going to go sit in the emergency room. We call Dr. Brian Atkins, who's in charge of it, and kind of just make it a better experience for them, and are able to send on every piece of information that we have about the rider's health and what the injury might have been, so that they can get care quickly.
So Brian Hernandez is a friend of the show, just had a nasty spill.
He did.
But he's recovering quickly. And one of the things, I'm pretty sure this is one of Brian's quotes, it's the only sport that a ambulance chases you around while you're doing the sport. But I really feel like, that kind of injury aside, especially on the horse side, I feel like the injuries and the accidents and the things that used to happen are a lot smaller than they used to be.
Absolutely, and the numbers will show that. I mean, and again, I think part of that is HISA. Kenny and I have had a lot of conversations about vet scratches, and I'm not saying they always get it right.
Yeah.
But sometimes they do.
Yeah.
And I think that stops a horse from getting hurt. And I think a lot of what can help that function of the state vet, who has a job that I wouldn't want for all the tea in China.
Right.
The communication beforehand, so that, Dr. Brown, for example, at our track, will talk to the state vets and say, I know it looks like this horse might be off in her right front, but I've been watching her train for weeks, and this is really how she moves, and she's fine. And that kind of communication helps a lot. It doesn't always carry the day, because ultimately, a lot of people call us when a horse is scratched and they're mad at us.
I'm sure.
To say, look, that's not the racetrack's function. It is the state vet's function.
Gotcha.
But we've got to all work together, because certainly the state vet doesn't want to scratch any horse.
Yeah.
But we got to make sure that the horses are as safe as they can possibly be. And it's not a black and white analysis all the time. And I think sometimes they get it right and sometimes they get it wrong.
Yeah. All right. So if you haven't been to Keeneland, and I'm going to let you give the elevator pitch here before we wrap up, but it's an unbelievably beautiful place. You feel like you're walking back into history a little bit when you go there. And we talked about how kind of recently you're just now calling the races at Keeneland. How do you maintain Keeneland's historic character, nature, while still upgrading facilities? Obviously, you're talking about the $100 million construction, but then technology and guest experience. How do you combine all that?
We are really intentional about it.
Okay.
So people have heard me say this all the time, but with the recent construction, we hired a firm called Populous, which an architecture firm. They are an international firm. They've helped with racetracks all over the world. And they kept saying, if this project is successful, what will it look like? And I said every single time, the building will look like it's always been there. And so sometimes they'd give us drawings and, the stone pattern was different. And I would say, why is the stone pattern different over the arches? And they said, well, you've got to know that it was 2025 when this was done. I was like, no, you don't want to know. You want people to walk in and say, gosh, this all fits together so well. So that's definitely an aspect that we're really careful about when we're building anything new. And then just the pride people take in Keeneland. It doesn't matter if it's me or if it's a guy on our sales team or if it's a guy on our maintenance team. If you see trash, you pick it up. You just never, ever want to see any blade of grass out of place at Keeneland, because everybody that works there takes such pride in being part of it.
Yeah.
And I think we all see ourselves as stewards of an incredible institution, and we want to leave it better than we found it. And it's hard to do with Keeneland. But I think we all recognize, too, it can't stay stagnant. Technology is a huge focus for us right now, making sure that we're staying up to date and providing data that our customers need from the sales standpoint and the racing standpoint. We've got an incredible head of sales in Tony Lacey. We've got an incredible head of racing in Gatewood Bell, who's kind of a savant at racing. He's kind of done everything in racing, including being a jockey's agent when he started out. So just hiring people that understand the nature of the business. Tony was a consignor for decades before he came on this side. So when he's dealing with consignors and breeders, he's been there because he is one. And Gatewood understands wagering and racing better than just about anybody I know. Yeah. So I think that's a big part of it too, just making sure that we've got people that are the experts in their field that can really help us make the right observations about how to move forward in the way that Keeneland should move forward and in a way people expect of us.
So correct me if I'm wrong here, but when you were kind of describing that, you made me think of this. Keeneland has someone on staff that helps you wager. I forget. There's a name for it. The betologist. That's right. I thought that was such a cool name. And and really and truly, that's kind of cool because if you don't know anything about it, the betologist can kind of walk you through it and pari-mutuels and everything else. I thought that was really neat. Do other tracks do that, or is that something unique to Keeneland?
I haven't seen it.
I haven't either.
And it's something our team came up with before me. But we don't want anybody to feel intimidated when they come there, either at the sales or at racing.
Sure.
And truly, I mean, we have people who bet professionally and make a living at it, but we also have people who come and socially bet 5 to win on the 8 horse because the silks are peak.
Right.
And either way is okay. We want them all. We want the casual fan. We want the hardcore fan. And we want everybody to feel comfortable there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so where do you see Keeneland in the next 5 to 10 years?
We when I came on to Keeneland, our leadership team got together in a room and I said, okay, here's some beer, some wine, some bourbon. Be creative. The sycamore tree, which is kind of our signature tree in the middle of our paddock, is a money tree. Pretend that money is not an issue.
Okay.
And we came up with so many awesome ideas. So we're just working on prioritizing them right now. There are some things we need to do to be more efficient operationally because I said we are a big city and those things aren't quite as fun and sexy as a new paddock building.
Yeah.
But I think it's just to continue enhancing the experience for everybody that comes to Keeneland. That's the bottom line of it. And growing our sport, focusing on who's seeing our sport. Kenny and I talk about this a lot too.
Oh, yeah.
Who's watching our races?
That's right.
Where are they being seen?
That's
are they being broadcast broadly enough? Are we telling our story. We all have a story to tell, and the stories in this business are incredible.
Yeah.
We just hired Gabby Gaudette as our director of communications.
Okay.
She was with FanDuel, and she's doing incredible work walking around the barns in the mornings and just really figuring out the stories that are incredible and can draw people to our sport and to the horse that maybe aren't being told right now as well as we should tell them. So I think that is definitely our focus. Whatever we do, it will be to enhance the experience, to make the sport better, and to draw more people in.
That's pretty cool. Telling the story is a big piece, and especially with this younger generation, I think they're into that sort of thing. So getting the next generation into horse racing, I think, is really, really important to tell those stories and really have those backgrounds.
And if you come out to our track on a Saturday morning during the race meet, we will have, I'm not exaggerating, 2,500 people there. There are kids running around everywhere. They're getting face paints. They're getting to ride like the jockey simulator, and it's just we recognize the importance of bringing that generation in. And I think of all the people that say, I used to go to the races with my dad, and it was so special to me. So we want to create that opportunity.
Shannon, it's interesting you say that. I come from the golf industry, and it used to be the country clubs is where the men went to get away from the family, and they would go smoke their cigars, and women weren't even allowed in. Now it's become, if you don't have things for families to do at a country club, men aren't going to join.
That's right.
And so I think horse racing is very similar in that aspect, that you have to have family things to get people to the racetrack.
Absolutely. And Netflix is a great example. Like that was awesome to see Kenny in that light. And
that was cool, wasn't it?
I know it's been good for him.
Oh, yeah.
But seeing Annie as a part of it,
right,
and Sherry as a part of it,
right,
just showing how the family works together as a unit in racing, I thought was a really important aspect of that portrayal.
That was pretty cool.
Industry.
All right, Shannon. So, day at the track. If let's say you don't have a whole lot of experience with Keeneland, so let's start there. Why come to Keeneland? Why come spend the day there?
Because it is an incredibly beautiful place. You're going to get delicious food. If you're 21, you're going to get a beer. You're going to be able to sit out and people watch and be amongst the most excited, best fans in the world. I mean, I really feel that way about our fans. And even if it's not a day at the races, I can't tell you how many people come to Keeneland just to walk the grounds, and we welcome that. I mean, we want them to. We have 1,300 acres right across from the airport, and it's some of the most beautiful property you'll ever step foot on. And I think when I drive in the gates every morning, I really do stop and just feel grateful. And I think people that work there do. You get a feeling, almost an otherworldly feeling when you go there, because of the attention and the care that people have taken of it since 1935. And we all go back to what our founder said. Our whole goal is to be a model racetrack and sales company and to perpetuate the very best of our sport. We all still believe in that so much, and I think you feel it when you come to our grounds.
I couldn't agree more. There's a lot of racetracks that are in a very urban setting, where Keeneland is kind of the Augusta and the Disney, where it's so right.
We like it when people say that,
but it's just so clean, and like you mentioned, there's never any trash, and it's just just perfect. There's not a blade of grass. You go to Augusta National Golf Course, there's not a blade of grass out of whack anywhere. Right. It's the same way at Keeneland, and I think if you can appreciate that type of thing, man, it's such a cool place to go to.
We agree. Thank you.
All right, so if you're going to go to Keeneland and you're going to spend a day at the track, what are some of the must-dos?
You must get a cup of ragu. Okay. If the temperature's lower than 85 degrees, I wouldn't suggest that.
Right, fair enough.
Another day. Definitely placing a wager. Definitely, and I say this to our people that work there every year too, because we have about 230 employees, and then during the race meet and sales, that swells to about 2,000. And I say, look, I don't care where your job is, you have to get out on the apron and see a race, because you can get so close to the horses, you can hear the hooves, you can smell the smells.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So that's really important to do. Our gift shop this meet in particular had a really long line. So get there early so that you can go through the gift shop, because there's lots of great merchandise in there. And I think just one of the changes that we made with this new paddock building is we've kind of restructured the way that our paddock works. So we didn't make it smaller per se, but we changed the shape of it a little bit. So you can now see the horses when they're being saddled. Just stand right outside the paddock and watch the horses be saddled. And then you can see them walk around the paddock at least 3 times. You can see the jockey's leg up and then go out onto the track. And then for our stakes races, we now have a new stakes winner's circle that's right in the center of everything, right next to the paddock. So you can come back there and see the horse be walked in, all the connections celebrating. And it's just one of the things we didn't anticipate. And I have a 14-year-old and a 16-year-old, 2 girls who are constantly taking pictures, mostly of themselves. So I don't know why I didn't think about it, but when we created this new paddock area and built the new building, it is the perfect place for pictures.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's so fun to see where people post up and take their selfies and their pictures that they go post on
Instagram and Snapchat,
TikTok and everywhere else. But we've noticed a lot of that too. So if you're of that genre and that era, that's definitely an important thing to do too.
Now, do you encourage people to get dressed up, or is it just kind of, whatever fits you?
I think it is definitely part of the culture of Keeneland.
I think so too, right?
So we have a dress code for the clubhouse. You have to wear a coat and tie, no denim. I don't see, somebody said, please don't change the dress code. I don't see that dress code changing ever. My husband jokes that it's the only time he doesn't mind putting on a tie is to come to Keeneland.
Got it.
And if you're not coming to the clubhouse, it depends on the day of the week. If I'm coming on a Wednesday and I weren't working, I'd wear jeans and a button down and feel perfectly comfortable.
Gotcha.
But it is fun how people embrace the culture of dressing up for Keeneland. And when we have scholarship day, we have so many kids from UK that come all throughout the meet, actually, but definitely on scholarship day, UK and Transylvania and the surrounding colleges. And they are dressed to the nines. Sometimes we joke because if it doesn't matter what the weather is, it matters that was their spring dress they were going to wear on opening Saturday of April. And even if it's snowing, they are still wearing
it doesn't matter the temperature,
which is part of the fun of the people watching. But yeah, people do really, I think it's part of the fun and the atmosphere that you want to get dressed and look nice when you come to Keeneland.
So cool.
Horse Races Now, the app to follow horse racing at over 1,200 tracks worldwide. View entries and results. Get notifications on your favorite horses, jockeys, trainers, racetracks, and owners. Users set up and revise notifications like live video at the gate, call to post, entries, results replays, etc.
All right. So, Shannon, how if someone wants to get involved in this Torpedo Anna sale, how would they do that?
They call Keeneland, ask for anybody on the sales team, and they can walk them through the process, and we'll get them set up to bid. The championship sale, another aspect that makes it really cool, I think, is that you don't have to have the horse there. So Torpedo Anna won't be there in California. That would be crazy to ship her to California.
Why California?
Just because that's where the Breeders' Cup is. So it'll be in...
because they're going to do it on site with Breeders' Cup.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Okay.
So it'll be the Wednesday before Breeders' Cup in the paddock at Del Mar.
Yep.
Same place we did it last year. Next year, it'll be in the paddock at Keeneland, which will be fun too. But it gives a lot of opportunities to get engaged in a horse. 25% of a horse that's running in the races the next few days is going to be sold. So it's an incredible opportunity. It is not hard at all to get set up to bid, and we welcome one and all.
Awesome. All right, last question, and I know hopefully we can leave this on a little bit of a positive note, but racing in California is not where it has been. It's down a little bit. There's the deal, I believe it's in Arizona, might be Oklahoma, where the jockeys they were striking because they weren't getting paid enough. There's a lot of negative stories around horse racing right now. First of all, how do we fix this? And second of all, where do you see kind of the state of the horse industry in the next couple of years?
I think we fix it by collaboration within the industry, and I think we're getting better at that than we were. Again, I think HISA does provide a foundation, not necessarily that we're going to go negotiate with HISA, but people had such strong feelings about medication issues that sometimes we couldn't get past those to talk about the other things that are really important. But it's critical that we have a healthy ecosystem for the sport. So, I'm delighted that Kentucky has such a strong circuit right now, but I want Maryland to have a strong circuit and Florida to have a strong circuit.
Does that help Keeneland if everybody is healthy?
Absolutely. And it's just part of creating a vibrant, sustainable sport for the future. And it definitely, it probably impacts Keeneland maybe more than some other tracks directly because of our sales, because it's important that we continue to have the demand for horses. And they're not all going to be graded stakes horses. There've got to be different levels of the sport that work. So I think we just all have to get in a room and figure out a way to make it make sense. Every professional sport doesn't only pay the teams that are successful make more, but there's also a system so that your feeder teams and everybody else has some piece of the pie too. So we got to grow that pie and create a system where it's healthy for everybody that's participating.
That's a great point. It's one of those things too, and I'm also curious about this because sometimes, especially even on our show, we have a lot of comments, whether it be on Facebook or YouTube, that have a negative connotation with the horse industry. Think that maybe trainers are not treating horses well, and Kenny is just, that sends him over the edge because he acts like these horses are treated like prince and princesses. I mean, they're so well treated.
They're coddled.
So I'd like to know your opinion because you're a little bit on both sides of that. Do you feel like the horses are treated really well in this industry?
Without a doubt. They are treated very, very well. You can't say always and never about anything. There are some bad actors, and it's our job.
And that's in everything.
It's our job to make sure that those bad actors don't have a platform. I mean, social media, not to go off on that tangent, but one of the problems with it is that anybody can say anything.
That's right.
And there's no accountability for
no recourse,
because you don't even have to look somebody in the eye.
Right.
You can say whatever you want to about them.
Right.
And so much of it is misinformation. So I think it's our job to educate people and show them. I mean, invite them in. Kenny's great at that.
Oh, yeah, he is.
Come to the barn. Let me show you how well my horses are treated. Look at all the carrots they get.
That's
Look
right.
At so I think that we are in a position to really grow the sport, enhance the sport, and the way you do that is inviting people in.
Yeah, I love it.
Look behind the curtain.
I love it. Shannon, anything you want to promote coming up at Keeneland?
No, just, be on the lookout for the championship sale with Torpedo Anna. That's going to be really exciting. And then we come back and we have our horses, our breeding sale in November. And then, like I said, horses of racing age, and then our art auction. So we got lots coming up still in the future that we're excited about. And then this spring, our paddock building will be fully open to the public. So we're excited about that too. Ticket information will be coming out in the next few weeks.
I love it. I can't thank you enough for being here. This is such a cool treat for our listeners.
Thank you. It's been really fun. I've enjoyed it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, this is the Horse Races Now podcast. We would appreciate a like, hit that subscribe button, even a nice comment helps. It goes a long way as far as building our listenership. So thank you for listening.